Due to the nature of the topics discussed in this episode, listener discretion is advised. If you have young children nearby, now would be a good time to pause the episode and come back later when little ears are not present.
There is nothing wrong with your podcast streaming service. We now control your device. This is not a test. This is podcast of the paranormal. Close your curtains and stay away from your windows. Lock your doors, turn off your lights. Get your snacks and drinks ready. Get to your basement or attic. The podcast is about to begin.
Hello, everyone. Today with us, we have Annie Emprima. She is a metaphysical researcher. Annie, if you would like to explain to everyone kind of what that means and how you got into this role.
Yeah, it's certainly not something I picked from an academic drop-down menu. It came about 4 days after I arrived in Kuwait as part of an Army deployment. So 4 days in, for whatever reason, I was walking from my barracks over to my work tent to report for duty, and I just felt things on my skin in a way that was very amplified and unfamiliar to me. So when I see sometimes with autistic kids and something just doesn't feel right in their shoe or the shirt doesn't feel right, that kicked in. And it kicked in without instruction manual, without warning. There was no memo that said, hey, your clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairempathy is going to go from a level 2 to a level 8 or 9 without notice. It just happened. And so, here I am on my deployment. It's a deployment environment. And I knew I wasn't going crazy, but it certainly felt like it, of having this sort of whisper in my ear, like a really tiny hearing aid inside my ear, and someone was talking to me. And I've called them the whispers for 10 years now. My deployment was 10 years ago. And so that led me into studying trauma. To condense a very long story into a short moment, it led me into understanding trauma with the aid of the whispers and the intuition that I have to see things that someone else wouldn't normally see. And so for 10 years, I've spent probably about 60 hours a week dedicated to understanding trauma from a different perspective. And so fast forward now, I use a lot of mystic capabilities to help people take their trauma healing beyond where therapy can go. I've created modalities, created a unique framework to help people zoom out and see the bigger picture, from traumas that they might have from before birth to how they've carried trauma forward into their offspring, and then also utilizing more metaphysical functions to help people understand what it is that they have, who they are, and what they're meant to do.
So you're on deployment and you're only there for a few days, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this spiritual awakening. So what is that like for you? Because you're like out of your comfort zone in so many ways. And now you have, this new realization happening for you.
Oh, it was wild. I dismissed it because that's what, our brain wants to fill in the blank the best it can. So I dismissed it and think, okay, it's the burning oil in the oil fields of Kuwait. I must be sensitive to the environmental stuff, because that just seemed logical. And then no one else was complaining about it. No one else was having a reaction to it. So I thought, okay, I'm alone in this. Maybe I'm sensitive and I'm feeling prayer in the air. It's 99% Islamic state. So maybe that's what it is. I'm not used to prayer in the air, because again, I didn't know what it was, and I was trying to make as much logic out of what was happening as possible, because the thought of a grand spiritual awakening was not quite on the to-do list. It didn't even occur to me until later in the deployment, when the voices got a little bit louder and I started feeling hands moving me. It's a different sensation than just some intuitive thought coming in. And I would feel these hands just move me. I would walk before it got too hot. In the evenings, I would walk about 5 miles and just keep walking. That was how I was decompressing. And I would just get to a crossroads and I want to go straight, and I could just feel these hands moving me as if I were 4 years old and Big Daddy had hands turning me to guide the youngin to go in that direction. And I was, okay, well, we're walking this way. There's no harm in going this way. And then what I would end up doing is running into someone who was walking by themselves. And I would naturally say, hey, why don't we walk together and talk? And so those moments just kept happening. And it wasn't unexplainable. So it wasn't like sending me into a corner of the camp with no real reason to land there. It was usually to arrive at a point where somebody else was already solo or sitting by themselves or something of that nature. So it was validating itself as it was going through the months. And then it just got a little bit louder and felt a little bit crazier because the sensations were getting a little bit more amped up as time went on. And as I started honoring it, oddly, about midway through my deployment, it occurred to me these were the same voices as the imaginary friends I had when I was 3. Oh, welcome back. So it was a feeling of a reunion within me. And even now my ear is starting to, the communication's kicking in. So that was the beginning. That was 10 years ago and the beginning of this wild, crazy journey.
So do you hear those voices? Do you actually hear them with your ears, or is it more of like an inner voice?
It's a combination.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm working with, let's say you and I were working together in a client situation, I'm going to hear it as a knowing that comes in, as if I were reading words in a book and I would hear the inner voice in me. But sometimes it's an auditory statement. Mm-hmm. And it'll come in different ways. So sometimes it's a male voice, a female voice. Depends on what it is that's trying to communicate with me, and doesn't need to be louder.
That's so interesting, too, to be able to connect it back to the same voice that you heard as a child that, you associated as an imaginary friend. Yeah.
Earl, there were 2 of them. So it was a male and a female, and they came back. They started talking to me maybe 4 months into the deployment.
Oh, wow. So you reconnected with them as well. That's really interesting. Do you still work with your imaginary friend from childhood?
No, I haven't had those voices in a bit because I've spent so much time working with clients that their voices are who I've been really spending a lot of time focused on. But even right now, whatever's coming in, I don't know if it's yours but they're getting loud. Like they want to know. They want us to know they're there and they want to be a part of the conversation.
What are you hearing? I'm so curious.
It's not a voice right now, but it's the sensation that if you were to go into a meeting at work, how the hustle and bustle of coming in and sitting down, and it's not anything of information yet, but the arrival of plural, whatever may be, I don't know what it is yet. I can hear the rustling of things coming, the transmission coming in, still staticky, and it's not clear yet.
That's just my anxiety because I'm not used to doing video interviews. So this is all very new to me, and this reminds me a lot of like a Teams chat at work. So that's funny. That makes sense.
So what does it typically look like, a session with a client?
When we're looking in the paranormal space, it can take a left turn very quickly. I've worked with clients, and I don't want to scare anyone that's listening to this that might be from my audience that is not on the paranormal side. Not everyone's session is going to happen the way I'm going to describe, but people who are open to paranormal experiences will experience this. So I want to, if anyone's watching on my YouTube channel or your channel listening, this is not everyone's session, but there were times when I've worked with some of my advanced students and we'll be in the middle of a trauma session and their whole body will just start vibrating. And then they start channeling. Like their mind stepped aside and something came through, and we're now talking with the council. And that was how the Council of 9 came in. That's how they decided to show up the first time. I'm in a client session and I had to stop them and say, this is not respectful. This person paid for their session. If you want to talk to me, I will put a team together and we can, and they did. The council respected that. But the first time it came in, she was like, it was full body vibration. And she ended up being a member of the team that was connecting with them. So that worked out in the favor. I've had deceased loved ones show up. I don't channel. I'm not a medium for somebody else. I create the causes and conditions for them to connect to their own loved ones so that I'm not distorting or interpreting through my lens of experience. And so we've had sessions where sometimes I'm having a session with a client and grandma hijacks the conversation. And grandma's got all this to tell about like what happened and now the focus is on grandma, and grandma's been gone for 20 years. So that can happen. I've had clients come to me thinking that they have been possessed by an entity and it's outside of their control. In those cases, it's not always an entity, or if they believe it's an attachment, because if someone comes from a spiritual language, their drop-down menu is only what's been exposed for them. And when I tap into that entity that's in them, and there's a couple on my YouTube channel where that happened. We went in and it turns out that they were invited. It wasn't an intrusive visit. It was moments where someone was in a state of desperation, probably in teenage years, where they just said, please God, is anyone out there? Can anyone help me? And when that invitation went out, visitors came in. And so when we connected to the visitors and we asked, okay, how long have you been here? Who or what are you? Where did you come from? How long have you been here? How are you helping? Those are the 4 core. We find that they felt that they weren't ready to cross over. They wanted a job. The call came out. They answered it. And so they have felt very loyal to this person for 10, 20, 30 years. Even though the need is no longer there, the invitation there was never an end date to the invitation. Someone said, I need someone right now, just for right now. It was, I need someone. And so we needed to give, and it wasn't an eviction letter in the sense of we need to extract, where I hear spiritual people, we need to extract, we need to pull out, and they make it this theatrical Hollywood.
Right. For entertainment.
Yeah, it's very entertainment value. This has less of a, it's very anticlimactic of, well, thank you for all the help you've done and we don't need you now.
Yeah.
So very 2-minute solution. And it makes people aware of how sensitive we can be to the energy field, especially when we're younger, in what exists out there and what we invite into our world.
Or like you said, too, even when you're experiencing trauma, how that could even open you up to, someone stepping into that role to try to assist you.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. Being a trauma researcher, I've spent a lot of time studying patterns. And I find that when spiritual leaders use things like, oh, we had to zip up, we had to protect ourselves before we do energy work, my question is always, well, why haven't you healed your trauma first so that you don't have to do that? Someone who doesn't have trauma doesn't have weak energy barriers, and there's not leaks, tears, and rips in the energy field. So when I hear someone saying that to me is a red flag that they haven't done their own trauma work and they're spiritually bypassing. Someone who has done trauma work is going to vibrate in such a way that nothing penetrates that field. It is very clean, very strong in the transmission of the self, that there is no invasion, there is no open door. And that if I teach anything in this space, it would be, this is why trauma comes first before we explore higher consciousness, because if we don't clean trauma, we're always going to have a dirty straw. Always.
No, and it's so important too, even when we're investigating in the field, we use a trauma-informed approach because you have to. You have to look at the humanistic aspect of the paranormal. You can't just go in like some kind of crusader who's going to, Yeah, you have to...
Go save the day.
Yeah, we went to Penhurst last month and I put a lot of time and effort and energy into learning how do I do this ethically? In a way that's not going to not only compromise us, but the spirits that are there, because they've had trauma, So it's just, you have to do that work before you're stepping into this field in any way.
We don't know what their job is. I've walked into haunted places and it gets sensationalized. And I ask, what is your role here? What is your job? Well, I'm here to guard the place. And if someone's coming in to do something that violates what my job has assigned me to do, I'm going to push them away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's sit down and have a conversation of how I can help the entity do their job respectfully. And I've never had in the 10 years that I've gone hunting, I've never found a spirit that disrespected me because I always came in with, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Right? And it's really changed the way the spirit world interacts with me.
It really does.
Yeah, I do have to agree with that. And that's something that Gabrielle has actually taught me, because everything I knew is what I've seen on TV.
Sure.
So she loves to go into an
invade space.
Exactly. Yeah.
No sacredness in coming in, no respect
Yes.
in how we're approaching it. And what do we get? We get that things moving and noises and banging and why?
Well, the thing is too is that they're not going to jump through hoops for you.
No.
They're not going to perform for you. The way I think about it is, when I move on, I don't want to think that that's how it's going to be. A bunch of people screaming at me in the dark to, move a cat ball or something like that. You know what I mean? And we do that when we're on our investigations, but we do it in a way that, we're not saying, hey, move this cat ball or,
right,
prove that you're here, and screaming at them in the dark. No, we're starting a conversation.
Yeah, we're building rapport.
Yeah.
That relationship is really important.
Yeah.
It's kind of like crows. Crows will pass down the message of someone that harmed them, and they will share it among the neighbors. But you find that the spirit world is the same, is when we truly come in to understand and we truly come in to communicate, it's a very different experience. And we can go deeper in the questions and deeper in the understanding, deeper in our awareness of what exists outside of our physical reality.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what we've found, too. Like, you're opening a space that you didn't even know existed, and you're going beyond that perceived notion of what, a stereotypical ghost it would be.
I mean, even with specific locations, too, you have this whole backstory of what's going on in the location. And we find out a lot of the time that what we're experiencing at these places, it doesn't line up with the story.
Right. Very rarely has my experience matched what the sales brochure said.
Yeah. I don't know what that says about us, you know what I mean? But it is interesting. We've been to places where you go looking for one thing, you're expecting what you're going to experience, and you don't experience that. Sometimes you get blindsided a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See a giant shadow in the woods, something like that. But
Yep, that's when I close my eyes and I feel into what's there rather than trying to see what's there. Because my eyes, if anyone's ever done psychedelics, the eyes are always their eyes can trick because it's being altered, but the senses are not going to trick us in the same way. Telepathy is less likely to get misinterpreted than what our visual eyes are seeing. So I've had clients where they wake up in the middle of the night and these spirits are going in and out of them, and their mind interprets that as this physical violation. And sometimes it's the, column A, sometimes it's column B. But if we don't talk and ask and find out what's going on, we don't really know. For instance, I had a client petrified of these things coming in and out of her. And we went into her superconscious and asked, what is happening? And it turns out that the energies were coming in and out of her to help sway the meridians, to help her. So she's afraid of something that's coming in and trying to help her feel less anxiety. And it's creating more anxiety because it's a misinterpretation and a miscommunication. But once she understood what was happening, it now was something that was welcomed rather than that was feared. And until we ask questions, we don't know.
Yeah, that's so true.
Now, are you ever worried that you might get it wrong with some of your guidance?
If it's coming from someone super conscious, no. If it's coming into my earpiece, no, because that's not coming from their mind. What comes out of their mouth? Yes. Very often I'm watching someone tell me something and their body is squirming and they're not like the body is making it clear it disagrees with what the mind is putting through the mouth.
Okay.
The words don't match. But if it's coming into my earpiece, no, that's coming in from a much deeper state. It's very rarely wrong. And I don't always interpret it. I will say it as it's coming through and say, I don't know how to interpret this. This is what I'm getting. This is my guess. But I'll make it clear that that's how I'm relaying the information.
Now, I think I've seen that you have worked with people who have been abducted.
Oh, yeah.
What is that like?
We're abducted for different reasons. So back, what was it, 2021? I tend to have clients all of the same. So I will get a batch of 8 people that have fibromyalgia, a batch of 8 people that have cardiac distress issues. This was the season of alien abductions where they knew something happened in a particular point in their time. They either lost memory of what happened or distorted what they thought happened. And I have a modality called the Mural Method. And it's usually used to help people go back into a trauma scene to meet. If we think of time in 3D, time only goes forward in our current understanding of time. If we raise our vibration, time can go forward and backward. And if we go a little bit higher in conscious expansion, everything is happening all at once. So with the Mural Method, when we walk through the mural to another point in time, it's not going into the past. It's going into something that is happening concurrently, but a different version of the self. So the client and I would go through the mural to that moment just before the abduction, maybe 22 minutes, 20 minutes. And then we tiptoe forward in time. But we're looking at the younger self in the bedroom, in the living room, in the backyard. And we're observing like ghosts. And side note, I want to come back to that. We're observing what's happening as current day, witnessing something that in the mind of a 3D understanding of time is happening in the past, but it's happening in that moment. So we've used that to then witness. I'm with the client in the scene. When we go back into this virtual reality function, I'm with the client and we're watching the younger self get lifted up or pulled up. And we coattail and we go up to wherever they're going. Sometimes it's a spacecraft. When we get to the spacecraft, there's usually something that can speak to us, that can talk to us. We're not stuck just witnessing without communication. One time, one of the events, the entities were just curious of humans. And so they took this client for the moment to just examine, like a child might look at a snail or a salamander or something on the ground. And they caused some damage in that observation. And then they put him back down and return him. And it wasn't that they weren't trying to be malicious and they weren't trying to cause harm. It was a species that was trying to observe, but they were a little bit reckless in their observation. So they caused trauma physically and emotionally. Another client went up, and I think they were 17 at the time, another male. And it was to help them, to prepare them for adulthood. So they were shifting the energy in their body so that as they started developing more of their brain, the prefrontal cortex, it was to help them handle experiences they were about to embark on, paranormal things. And so it was like allowing, if we use implants, it was removing the filters so that they could see things now that they were older, because if they had access to it when they were younger, it would have freaked them out. So that was one of the moments. But sometimes I had a client, not part of this batch, it was a different client, where we followed it up and we went to a different place. It wasn't a spacecraft. It was another world of sorts. And she had hybrid children. And we're witnessing this of her as an adult, watching her 20-something younger self being used to extract eggs for these children. That was the first time I encountered that. So that was a little bit of a session that went to the edge of my understanding. When I asked her superconscious said, yes, we agreed to this before she was even born. But her subconscious said, no, we never agreed to this. So the higher conscious self understood the assignment, even though there was no consent from the active mind or the subconscious. They never got the memo, but the superconscious did and was not concerned with the events that were unfolding. So it was a little bit hard for her to reconcile because her mind never said yes, even though her higher self or her soul said yes. And that felt like a civil war within her that had to get reconciled, because how dare you volunteer me for this without ever asking me, not realizing the soul's path. And sometimes the soul is here to do things that are not going to make sense to modern understanding of non-physical reality.
So these sessions, how do they generally look? Is it a sort of hypnosis thing that's going on, or is it like a meditation discussion?
What happens with private sessions that are on the advanced side, because I have coaching, which coaching would just be talking, and me having an understanding of connecting to their nervous system, connecting to their soul. When I'm doing advanced work, which is what I'm known for, I use an elevator system. You go up the elevator. So we're having your mind count and preoccupying it with a visual while I come in the back door, kind of the motherboard of your brain, and I access to overlay so that I can get your information on my dashboard. There's an invisible dashboard inside my eyes that'll tell me what we're about to do. And then I have the earpiece saying, this is what we want to do with the session. So it's just like this. You're sitting up. There's no hypnosis. You can get up, you can walk around, you can drink water. Your eyes can be open, your eyes can be closed. Most people want their eyes closed because it's easier for them to see with daylight, the light on. Some will use an eye mask, but it's not necessary. I have a client who can do it. She can do it while she's walking. And it's just putting you into a different state of virtual reality with your consciousness. And when I'm in your mind, it's kind of like when you have a virtual IT person come in your computer. I'm seeing some of what you're seeing, but only what I have classification to access. So I'll only get access to what your superconscious has given me permission to see. And then we start moving through the modalities. So it would look just like this.
So you've also worked with people who have believed that they might have like some type of attachment or possession?
Yeah. In the attachments, that's almost all. They come in panic. Like, I can't get this thing out, or I've got to call Archangel Raphael. Like, whoa, slow down. Slow down. Let's find out why it's there. First, who or what are you? Where did you come from? How long have you been here? How are you helping me? And I always ask, how are you helping me? And they always say it's not. And then I always correct them. And I ask again, and we find out something that they never thought of. When it comes to attachments don't happen unless we have a trauma. Trauma weakens our energy field. If we don't have trauma, we're much less likely to have something occupying our same space. When it's an attachment, that's when we slow down. And now going back to that conversation of, where did you come from? When did I invite you in? But I've had some crazy TikTok lives, and I had a client who she just kept feeling like she was being sexually violated over and over again by these entities. And she would wake up with these cuts and these marks on her body. And her superconscious is telling me, the earpiece voice is saying, she's putting herself into a state of psychosis. She's not listening. We're trying to communicate with her. And the soul superconscious always speaks in plural. It's always we, never I, because I is the mind. We're trying to tell her not to panic, that she's creating more of a psychosomatic experience. She's not listening to us. Can you tell her to slow down and breathe? And so all of these events, the more afraid she was, the more her skin was showing what she thought was supposed to happen if something invaded her body. Because Christianity and Hollywood have they do a great job of creating a narrative. And it took her a long time, I say many TikTok lives, coming up on demos, coming up in a panic. And of course, on TikTok, the more extreme it is, the more viewers I get. But at the same time, ethically, it wasn't the right thing to keep feeding the story. So it's slow her down, get her mind connected back to her body, get the mind and body connected back to the soul, and let's reassess from there. Because we're never going to see clearly if those three are disconnected in any way. And sure enough, get her back into her body, get her grounded, get her thinking clearly, and all of the symptoms disappeared.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's not real sometimes, but if that earpiece says it's psychosomatic, it is psychosomatic.
So how do you deal with people because I'm sure you've had clients, when you realize that there may be some sort of
Psychosis?
Yeah.
Like underlying mental health factors.
That's what
Is
I'm
that
looking
you're
for.
thinking?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes they don't want to hear it. They want the narrative. And that's not my lane. Even though I work in trauma, I work in metaphysical space of trauma, mind, body, soul connection.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to step into the lane of mental health and treat, diagnose. That's not my role. And I can't even suggest it. I had a client that came to me. She had DID, dissociative identity disorder. Every time she'd come to have a session, she bought a package, succession advanced package. Every time she'd show up, it was a different personality. And I couldn't understand what was happening because it didn't occur to me until the fourth session where she says, why am I even in this appointment? I don't know who you are. I'm like, wait a minute. We've had 4 sessions. This is the 4th session. Mm-hmm. And then I realized this isn't the personality I'm used to talking to. And because she was undiagnosed, I didn't know to look for it. And I can't be the one to say you have DID. I'm not a psychiatrist.
Right.
So I just have to say, we're going to discontinue services. This is not a good fit. Because it's not my place. I can suggest it, but if that gentle nudge doesn't get accepted, I can't take it past that. So I just have to discontinue service because I'm not going to help them. I'm going to, and this has happened in my own practice where people have taken themselves into a state of psychosis. And even when I said, hey, we got to slow it down, bring it back down, they don't want to stop that momentum. They want to keep going and sensationalize it. And back in 2022, I had 2 students, and I had given them too much stage time on TikTok. And they were convinced there were demons and that my soul had been trapped. And it was this ridiculous story based through the lens of their own addictions that ended up costing me about $45,000 in lost revenue. And I lost a lot of clients that were Christian adjacent. They were 1 foot in the water, but not really into metaphysics fully, so that when something happened, it pulled them right back out. And I lost those clients that had been guided to me because these individuals would not, when I said, you need to slow down, it's not what you think it is. They took that as disrespect and then dug their heels in the sand and went on 14-day boot camps to detoxify people of my energy on TikTok. And it was so insane, so theatrical, and yet people believed them and believed them with genuine fear. And there's nothing I can do. I can't go grab that and grab all these people and say, no, this is what someone with mental health issues is doing, because I can't even label them. I'm not in a position to even say they're not mentally well. And so it does create a bit of a predicament when individuals take things beyond what is happening and they take the facts, they distort them, and they create a narrative, even though the facts don't support it. And that was the start of why I have such an emphasis on trauma work first before we go do trauma work first before we go ghost hunting. Do trauma work first before we go energy expanding and talking to aliens, because our experiences will always be seen through the lens of trauma.
Right.
Now, do you have any personal paranormal experiences?
So many things happened as a kid, and I just dismissed it, thinking it was like my imagination from reading those ghost stories when I was a kid. I had boyfriends that I should not have been dating when I was 14, when I was 15, 16. Like disrespectful young men, disrespectful. So they would want to be pursuing some sexual activity in my bedroom, and I'm a teenager, and I would feel no, but I wasn't saying no because I was a people pleaser. So the lamps would do it for me. They would just flicker and flicker and flicker. So much so that they would leave my bedroom and go back downstairs. It happened maybe four guys. The last time it happened, my bedroom, why my parents put me in the bedroom that had the window up over the garage where I could escape and go hang out with my friends all night. Or I also had the access to the attic door. So my boyfriend wanted to smoke. It was winter. He didn't want to go outside, which is what my mother told him he needed to do. He's 16, 17, maybe 18, I don't know. So we went upstairs to the attic, and it was bare wood. And there were no fixed light fixtures. They were the clamps that squeeze onto the eaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like the floodlight thing that hangs down. And I kept telling him I didn't want him smoking. But I wasn't assertive at the time. I was still a people pleaser. And I was like, Jeff, I don't want you smoking in my house. My mother said no. I don't want you smoking. That, can we swear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. That fucking light dropped about 4 inches above his head. It freaked him out. He ran out of my attic. He never smoked in my house again.
That's funny.
Yep. Spirit got the message across.
And here's the kicker is I would remember ghosts coming into my room, and they were benevolent. They didn't feel like they were there to scare me. It didn't feel it like haunted. My house didn't feel haunted. I just couldn't see them and I couldn't hear them.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel them, and that was all I had, which was scary, but not. They didn't feel scary. It was scary because I couldn't communicate. Well, here I am. I'm doing the Mural Method. The Mural Method started back in 2020, 2021. The modality came to me. And I was on an app called Clubhouse at the time. And I bring the client that he had paid to do a demo. He came up, and the earpiece, when I connected to him, said, take him through the mural. And I didn't know what that was at the time. And we walk through the mural, and we end up in his middle school playground, and his younger self is playing football. So that's where the modality came from. So maybe 2 years later, I'm thinking, well, if I can do this for clients, why don't I go back to my childhood and go help her differently than rewriting the story from a first person current day? I went back and I realized all those times those ghosts were going into the room, that was me.
I was going to say that. I was going to say, how do you know it wasn't you?
It was me.
Yeah, messing with the lights. I love that.
It was me. I was like, touche, Annie, touche.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I really started to pay attention to the things that we're scared of and how little we understand the metaphysical space. And when we do start to slow down and consider things from a zoomed out perspective, some of the things that are happening to us are things we agreed to that are my own doing. I was giving my younger self a voice when she didn't have one.
Mm.
And if we can teach other people to build up their confidence and their self-esteem and their worthiness by showing them how much influence we can have in the timeline, it really changes how people show up as stewards of humanity in current day, and how much we need that in our society globally, how disconnected we feel and how much more connected we feel to everyone around us, to the collective, to our community, when we understand how connected we are to ourselves. It changes how we make choices. It gives greater intention to what we do today for the future and for the past.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You have to almost do that inner shadow work to really be able to break through any kind of change in yourself.
Yeah. So this is a prerequisite when I have clients that want to go deep into paranormal. And I've got my Monday night group. They do galactic, alien, or extraterrestrial encounters. My Sunday is correcting injustices throughout time, U.S. history. My Tuesday group, we've done a lot of astral traveling to ancient times in Turkey and Italy and the regions of sort of ancient Christianity, it's always do the trauma work first. Always do the trauma work first, because that'll give us the greatest understanding. And it also gives us the greater respect from the sources that we're communicating with to really understand what's happening.
I know that you've mentioned the mural method.
Mhm.
Would you be willing to explain that a little?
Yeah. So what the mural does, when I take people up that elevator, and I don't know how much time do we have time to do a little 5-minute, 10-minute?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if you both want, we'll just go up the elevator to the black room, what is called the black room. That is the home base of everything I do on the advanced side. From there, it'll branch out. So I want you to just feel what it feels like to go up the elevator.
Oh, boy.
You can close your eyes, you can keep them open, but count up 1 to 30. And then when you hit 30, just let me know if your door is open or not. And you can count out loud, you can count to yourself, and start whenever you're ready.
I think my door is open. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. And if you can't see as well, lean on your other senses of knowing, feeling. And if your door opens, step off the elevator and go into the black room. And the black room can be, for you, some people it's furnished. Some people it's completely empty. Some people it's open space and they're floating. Just let me know how your superconscious is presenting it to you.
Did you get there? Is your door open or closed?
My door is open.
Okay.
Do the two of you entangle in your dreams? Do you show up in each other's dreams?
We have had the same dream at some time. Yeah.
Because normally when there's two people, I see two different channels, and the two of you are like you're intertwining, and it's like braiding as you're going up. You're crossing over in each other's energy.
Yeah. My room is empty. It might have a chair.
My room is very corporate.
Of course it is.
There's
In an office.
fluorescent lights, gray walls, black couches.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing.
So this is the black room. And what usually happens is when someone goes to the black room, how they see it the first time, it'll stay that way. That the superconscious is determined. This is at our starting point. As we get more comfortable working in the black room, and sometimes we'll come off the elevator, a client will come off, and there's a deceased loved one, or there's an abusive parent, even if they're still alive, their essence is waiting for them. And that's the session. When you're ready to do timeline work, you will see a mural on the left side when you come off the elevator, somewhere on your left, a left wall, a left space, you'll see a mural that's blank. And that's our cue that we can put the image of what we want to visit on that mural.
So the
And
weirdest
that's when
thing,
Uh-huh.
my room seemed empty,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a chair, but it was like this big like rectangle of like almost like a wall. Like
With a portal?
the wall was just like a big rectangle.
Was it a frame?
And it was like highlighted in like a light. Like just like the side of a wall, like the portion of a wall, but everything else was like black.
When you walk, is it big enough to walk through?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it. We're just going to go in a couple minutes. We'll come back out.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is go up to that wall. I want both hands on the wall, and I want you to tell me what you feel. Does it feel solid? Does it feel like hands going through water? What's the viscosity?
It feels like very pliable, like I could easily just go through it.
I'm going to come in. I'm tethering behind you. So I'm going to anchor to you the same way a tandem skydive instructor would do with a new person. I'm going to connect to you.
Okay.
We're both going to take 3 steps back, take 3 natural steps back. And then when you're ready, you're going to count out loud 1, 2, 3. And each count is a step. When we hit 3, you and I move through that wall.
Okay.
When you're ready, go.
1, 2, 3.
Slowly, gently, safely, we move through time to another point in time. Slowly, gently, safely, we are arriving at a point in the timeline that has already occurred in your memory. We are coming in as observers to witness another version of you existing concurrently in time and space. Take a deep breath. You're not breathing. Breathing is going to help your mind understand what is happening right now, because I can feel there's a pause of wanting to understand before the next breath. Something new that we're walking into. So what is the scene that we're walking into?
It almost feels like it's like an open field.
Okay. Let's walk into that open field. When we come in, you and I are going to disconnect from the tandem, but I'm going to walk by your side. We're going to walk through that field. We're going to stop. Look around. What is familiar?
I don't feel like I've been here before. It feels like it's like an open field with like trees lining it, and there's some like wildflowers.
Take a few breaths. Relax your eyes and look again.
No, it's gone.
Where are we now?
Back in the room.
In the black room?
Yeah.
What did you feel in your body when we crossed through the mural?
When I saw the green grass, I was like, oh no, because we had this experience with the shadow creature that we thought was like a certain entity that we were working with, and being in a green field would make so much sense for me because we did a meditation to try to contact him, and that's where you go, is you go into an open field, and it's like, now walk through this like clearing in the woods and he will come to you. And I was like, oh no, it's him.
So it did take you back to a memory, a point in time.
Yeah.
And I could feel your muscles tensing up, and I felt you not breathing. Like your mind was like, dude, what? There was the contradiction and a pause.
Yeah.
If we wanted to go back to that moment when you were trying to connect, we would be able to go back into what you experienced as observers. And when I'm with you, I can help monitor what you're doing, your breathing, your heart rate, your nervous system. And that gives me a lot of cues in my body as to what's about to happen. And then I will also get guidance of what we're walking into. So if it's going back into a memory to help that younger version build resources and tools and have some support from outside the physical reality, that's how we would do it. In this case, this could be a way for me to participate with you in contacting that entity to understand what it really is. So even though we're back in the black room, I'm going to have both of you come back down that elevator, and you do it the same way. You step into the elevator, let the doors close, count down 30 to 1. If either one of you skip a number, start over. If you feel pressure that you're counting too fast, slow down. You'll feel an energetic resistance to the speed that you're counting. It'll force you to slow down. And then let me know when you're back.
I'm back.
I'm back also.
Disconnected from you yet. There's still there's a tension in breath that I'm waiting to release. I'm waiting for that to release before I get the green light to disconnect from you. My energy is still connected, and I want to wait so we have clean. Did you notice anything going up the elevator or coming back down?
I noticed going up, I was like very quick to go up, but going down, it was slower.
Do you normally do any meditation or any accessing higher states of consciousness? Psychedelics or?
Nothing consistent, but Jody more often than me.
How do you mean?
Like when you're doing an Estes session, you're more experiencing an altered state than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes intense breath work will activate it. Sometimes, yeah. So the more familiar your mind is to things that exist outside of the current drop-down menu, the deeper we'll go. So it's a crawl, walk, run of showing your nervous system that what I'm doing is safe, and letting your mind know it doesn't have to manage everything, that I can also supplement that management system. And so when the mind feels safe and the nervous system feels safe, we can dive in really deep and explore, whether we're exploring things into the paranormal space, or we're exploring traumas and suppressed memories, we're using the same pathways.
I could see how that could be useful for trauma work. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And when I'm co-regulating with the nervous system, it really takes a lot of the stress off the nervous system to feel like it has to protect so hard. It can breathe and exhale and relax a little bit because I'm monitoring what's happening, and I will pull. So if we get into something really deep that's really scary, before we even get there, I'll have the heads up 4 seconds ahead, and I'll say, okay, we're walking into something. I'm going to increase my monitoring and my awareness. And if I feel like it's beyond what your nervous system would deem safe, I'm going to pull us back. And just like what happened with you, you got to that moment, the black room pulled you back out. No, we don't have enough time today. This isn't safe, but not in an unsafe way, like something bad's going to happen, just an unsafe way for your nervous system to lower, to like go into a yellow zone instead of a green zone. Like, nope, we're going to come back here for today. And it will bring you back. And the more your mind sees that of the adjustments being made, your nervous system feels safer, your mind feels safer, we go deeper. And we can do ancestral work. Sometimes I've got this spacecraft that sometimes we're on the paved path, and that paved path will start to lift the essence up. And that craft works and repairs meridians. So sort of like acupuncture, but if a meridian is really damaged, it will replace that energy line, and you'll get new energy lines to flow through your body. And then we come back. So there's different functions that are available off of the black room.
That is so interesting. Wow.
It really does remind me a lot of like meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're guiding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is.
And I'm with you. There's no psychedelics required. No hypnosis required.
Yeah.
And that was told to you like through another session? Wow.
All of the modalities came through sessions.
That's so
one
interesting.
time, client and I showed up in the black room, and it said, take them up the ancestral tree, just like with the Mural Method. What's the ancestral tree? Buddy, Annie, we're going to guide you, and this is going to be yours to keep. And that was how, when we went to the ancestral tree, she had been sexually violated with incest experiences, and it was her grandfather. We started climbing up the tree, and the earpiece is saying, slow down, let her hug the trunk first. We climb up. A branch is mother, a branch is father, and then each branch split into 2, grandmother, grandfather, paternal and maternal. And we get to his branch, and I'm thinking, okay, we're coming in hot and heavy. We're going to just throw this back at him. This was such a violation of her sense of safety. And as soon as we arrived at the branch, he says, oh, that's not yours. And he takes her pain. He said, I am so sorry. That was never meant for you. That was never meant for you. And he took it and he created a saddle over his branch. And he said, this was my pain to ride, not yours. And it was this like huge apology. And we thought we were going to come in and, we're going to dominate. That's not what happened. So gentle, sacred, ancestral tree of honored hardships. That was the client where it just appeared, and it's been available for everybody.
That's so beautiful that he had, come through to say, was he still living?
No, he had long passed. And he had explained how his life was so horrid, and he had experienced sexual violation. And he said to her, I am so sorry. I couldn't help myself. And this is what happened to me. And this was never yours. This was never supposed to be yours. And it was just this apology, this really deep, grieving apology of, I am so sorry that I caused you this pain. And he took it. And it was, one, confusing, because here's this individual that's had this rage against this human. So there was this cognitive dissonance of, no, we hate him. And yet there's this deep vibrational love coming for him as we're in the scene. And he explained to her how he was not apologizing so much for what he did. He understood what he did was horrific. But he said, please understand, I couldn't help myself, and that's not an excuse. It was my own traumas were they were just out of control, and I didn't know how to handle it, and I didn't know who to go to for help, and I didn't have resources, and this should never have been yours. And it was this like, I'm crying, she's crying. And I'm realizing how we inherit trauma and how when indigenous tribes honor their ancestors, how when we honor the ancestors when they're living, if they are growing up in the state of honor, how they feel more supported to not have the traumas that bleed on other people. And we also don't carry it down epigenetically to our children and grandchildren through our behaviors and through our genetic inheritance. So it really opened my eyes up to how trauma, my ears are going, how trauma isn't just us in this moment. It is a history of us, the whole tree. And then as we have children, our tree trunk comes up and becomes the branch. And they have their trunk. And then we become a part of their history. And so the intention of understanding this space, it's hard not to walk with intention when you understand when every step has a ripple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so profound. I love that. That's kind of the stuff that really interests me, right? I worked in child welfare for a number of years, and I learned through that about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Yeah. And I was like, this is so interesting to me. Yep. And I just kind of like fell down into this rabbit hole of really exploring what it was and how it affects people, and like generationally, but also like physically, it affects you. And just the things that you have talked about, like the ancestral tree, I feel like could really help people who have like a high ACEs score to help work through that trauma that they've experienced in their lives.
And diseases and disorders.
Yeah.
When we look at individuals with ADHD, very often we find grandparents with addiction, alcoholism. Very often, because our grandmother, when she's pregnant with our mom develops the eggs that fertilize us. So what happens to grandma gets shared. And sometimes it skips the fetus and goes straight to the egg. And vice versa. And I shouldn't say vice versa, but also with men in the inheritance and the sharing of DNA, we can inherit trauma that doesn't come to us as trauma. It comes to us as physical disease. So when I look at fibromyalgia, very often there's a parent that has fibromyalgia. When we follow that trail, there's chronic complex grief. When we're looking at like ADHD, when we look at hysterectomies, when someone says to me, hey, I'm about to have a hysterectomy, I start asking questions. Did grandma feel sexually safe in her life? Was there any sexual violation that got handed down? Because sometimes we're paying the penalty and interest for our ancestors' inability or lack of access to heal their own traumas. That gets handed down, and then our body pays the toll, even though it wasn't our experience.
Yeah.
So we have to zoom out metaphysically, which is why I choose to be a metaphysical trauma researcher. It's not trauma that happens in the metaphysical space. It's using metaphysical tools and modalities to look at a bigger picture and understand trauma from a much wider lens, and to be a stronger container to handle not just healing self, but healing mom and grandpa and great grandpa in one container. So it's a much larger understanding of trauma and healing. And it's a much greater understanding of how everything ripples and how a society can pay the toll for trauma that existed 2 generations ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This has been such an interesting conversation. I'm so happy that we chose to have this conversation with you.
I'm out of my wheelhouse on this one, I gotta admit.
I mean, we can talk about ghosts too. We can go back to that.
I told her actually before this interview, I said, this is going to be you. You're the one with the psychology degree. And, you're going to fit a lot better than I would for this conversation. But
we don't understand our consequences. A couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I would be walking on this trail near my house, and there's a big metal fence to keep people from going onto the train tracks. And there's a normal, like, wind hits the fence and it makes a little bit of a ding noise. It's a little like tink tink. But I would walk with my friend who has the one that the Council of Nine came in and she was vibrating, and that was my first encounter with the council. When I would go for a walk with her, there would be the bang, a big bang, as if someone had a bat and they were hitting the metal fence. Yeah, bam. So we stopped one time because it was just getting so loud. And the entity it had a tail, not quite a lizard, but it had a tail, and it was big energetically. So I don't see as much as it's more like sonar. It'll come to me in a picture, but I'm not seeing them clairvoyantly. And it was a male, and he said, "We know you can't solve all of this, but we need to have a connection, to connect and make contact with humans, because your anxiety, your fear as a society is affecting our species. And because we vibrate higher, you don't see us. But that vibration is impacting the well-being of our species. And they exist on Earth, they cohabitate, but they're at a different vibration." And that was really sad, because it was this feeling of, well, I don't know how to fix this. I see it too. And I don't know how to relay this to the people that have authority to be a part of raising the vibration of coming out of fear and grief and anger, how to be in a more peaceful state so that it's not injuring other species that are cohabitating on this planet. And because they can't be seen, it can't be validated, therefore science doesn't accept it. And yet that doesn't mean there's not a consequence to everything else that lives on this planet too, seen and unseen. So trauma ripples in many different ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I never considered the way that our trauma would affect other species on the planet. That's an interesting theory. That's really interesting.
Think about what happens with pets in our home.
Yeah.
How many people that are really heavy in trauma, that are not working through their trauma, have dogs and cats that have unexplainable cancers or unexplainable diseases and ailments, or they die early over and over again. I had a neighbor, her cats would die like around the 6 to 8 year mark. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And then I realized her heavy smoking and her trauma and her anxiety, the cat was taking it on, and they were getting so full, they were not living a full life. And then that's one of the chapters in my upcoming book, is how are our pets a reflection of our nervous system? So even if we can't see it in a paranormal way, we can at least see it physically within our own pets. How many adults that are on Prozac that have dogs on Prozac? How many adults that are on, anxiety medication have dogs on CBD? There's usually a correlation there. Not always. It's not an absolute statement, but very often we've got a relationship happening. So if we can't see it in the grander way, we can at least see it in our own home.
With pets, it's funny you mentioned that. The way I see it is, your pets, they always know when something's wrong, right? They always know when you're not feeling well, when you're in a bad mood, whatever. And I always thought that was interesting, because what they're actually doing is, they can't communicate with you the way that you communicate with other humans, through language.
Mm-hmm.
So they are communicating by basically picking everything up that you're putting out there.
Yeah.
And they're reacting to that.
Yeah, and absorbing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As an act of love, like an act of loyalty is, I will take this from you. And if the individual, the pet owner, is not the alpha in the home, that pet will be the alpha and think it's their job to co-regulate their person.
Yeah, that's why the dog's always all over you when you're
Trauma
sick.
Trauma first.
Yeah.
If we heal our trauma, so many other things heal themselves. The symptoms, the secondary symptoms, are alleviated when we reconnect mind and body.
So you mentioned your book. What is the name of your book?
Trauma Whispers Before It Roars.
I love
And
that
it's
name.
a field manual for the nervous system.
And when does it come out?
August 12th.
Okay. Oh, that's so soon.
Yeah, it'll by the time this goes live, it'll be on pre-sale.
And where will people be able to find your book?
Amazon first, and then it will roll either 30 or 60 days after Amazon. It will be on Barnes & Noble and in the indie group, in the indie bookstores that pick it up.
Oh, that's awesome. This has been a really great conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate your time with us today. Thank you so much. Well, that was an enlightening episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed our conversation with Annie.
Yeah. Different perspectives. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's nice to talk about stuff that, we're not really used to, I guess.
Yeah, it was nice to step into her world and
Yeah.
see how she has made this role her own
Yeah.
and what she brings to the table.
Through a metaphysical lens.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed listening.
So, where could everybody find us?
Podcastoftheparanormal.com.
And that's our central hub. That's got everything on it. It's got links to our social media. You could listen to our episodes on there. And it's got links to all of the podcast platforms that we run the show on.
Yes.
So next time,
We will have Paul from Haunted Vermont coming on.
yep, and he comes on and he talks about a few experiences he's had.
Yeah.
You've heard Paul before. We've had him on an episode, a collab with Haunted Vermont and Envious Alien. So we've been trying to get Paul on here for a while.
Finally got him.
And Paul's a wealth of knowledge, so I think y'all will be pleased to hear what he has to say. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul's a lot of fun.
Until next time.
Thank you, everyone.